Hello there. So today I'm going to talk about my soulmate, how we met, and our relationship, and that kind of stuff. If you want to support me or support the channel, the information is in the description. Do not feel obligated. So, wow, where should I start? Well, first, let me talk about my first relationship. My first relationship happened when I was 16 years old. I had just moved to Claremont from El Centro, which we spent 9 months at because my dad wanted to try being a correctional officer, which didn't work. So before that, we lived in Fontana, which is where I grew up. But we decided that we weren't going to move back to Fontana because it was bad. It was just around the time where it was just getting filled with cholos, and there's just too many people, too much traffic, and just too many gangbangers. So when we decided to move back, my father asked me where we should move to, and I said Claremont. And that's where we ended up moving to. So anyway, we moved to Claremont on October 31st, 1996. And I had to start a new school, which always sucks. I'm not very good with people or talking to people, that kind of thing. So, I ended up making a friend and made more friends through that friend. And one day this girl just randomly says, "Hey, who are you?" And she was part of the group. And I told her my name, and I didn't really think that she liked me or anything. She just was asking for my name. So a few weeks of, my group hanging out, we were at Griswold's old schoolhouse, which is in Claremont on Indian Hill and Foothill. There's like a bunch of stores there, that kind of thing. So my group is walking, and she extends her arms back kind of like this, and I assumed that she wanted me to give her my hand, so I did, and she wrapped them around her. And so I figured, well, this girl probably likes me. And I had heard that she had a boyfriend, but I wasn't sure, and I didn't really ask too many questions. So to make a long story short, she was my first kiss, my first everything. It was like something out of a Hallmark movie. I mean, she came to my house in December. She figured out where I lived, and I answered the door in my pajamas, and she just says, "Put on your clothes. Come on, let's go." Wow, okay. So I did, and she took me to an area in Ranch Cucamonga where there's a few blocks that are just lit with Christmas lights. So we're walking around, I'm in this new city. I'm just trying to make friends, and this girl's kind of interested in me, and it was just great. And she was aggressive, but not too aggressive, just aggressive enough to kind of get my attention and grab me, because I wasn't going to make any first moves. I was pretty shy. So we dated for a few months, and it was great. And then slowly she just started to kind of like not answer her phone, that sort of thing. And to make a long story short, it turns out that she didn't break up with her boyfriend, and basically I was just her side guy, which I didn't know. So I was pretty heartbroken. I was depressed, but I didn't know what depression was at the time. So that kind of was my first experience with a relationship. It was amazing in the sense that, you know, the passion and all that, and she was attractive. I was attracted to her. She was aggressive, which is what I needed, and it was just great. My first relationship, but it ended on a really bad note, which is kind of where it seemed a lot of my relationships went after that. I would say 95% of my relationships, or maybe just women I dated, it always kind of went bad in the sense of they decided that, like if we were dating, they decided that they wanted to go back to their boyfriend, or if we were serious, they were having an affair. It was always kind of things like that. So I met my soulmate in 2012. And I had just gotten over a divorce, which was horrific. It was somebody I should have never married, and it was just a nightmare. The only thing that was good about that divorce was I ended up landing a job which I really don't like working for other people, but I needed it at the time because I needed to be told what to do. I was so broken and fucked up. I got a job at Sammy's Camera managing their eBay department, and I got paid very well, and I also got paid a commission check every month for whatever I sold, so I was making bank. So at this time, pretty much every day after work, I'd go and hang out with a friend for a few hours or spend the night. Because I was living with I moved to live with my mom for a while because I was messed up. And so every day out of work, I'd go hang out with my friend who lived in Fontana. By the way, it's actually kind of like my sister-in-law. I have an older brother who died when he was 18. I brought this up in the original Soft White Underbelly video from a car accident. Well, his girlfriend was in the car and she was pregnant. She survived and my niece survived, and they're completely fine. I mean, you know, my sister-in-law is pretty banged up from the accident, but she's okay. She made it, and my niece is more than fine. Well, about a year later after the accident, or maybe a couple of years, I can't remember, she ended up getting into a relationship with my brother's best friend, who's like just a great guy. So they've been together for a long time. So I'm close to them. So being a broken person, I'd go and hang out with them, and we'd go out to eat, do this and do that. And they usually have parties on the weekends. Well, I remember it was like one Saturday, I was there and I saw this woman kind of sitting on the couch, and she kept looking at me. But it wasn't like a I like you look. It was just kind of like she's trying to read you, figure out who you are, that sort of thing. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, a few more times, on another Saturday, she would show up, and I never really talked to her other than hi. So a couple more Saturdays show up, and some people are drinking. I'm really not drinking at the time. I'm just not interested. So I'd always be drinking like coffee or frappuccinos. So I decide I'm kind of done with the party, and I'm kind of tired. I just want to go home. So I tell my friend I'm going to leave, and she just grabs me and starts dancing with me. And I don't know how to dance. And she's dancing kind of provocatively. And my buddy had a friend who liked her and wanted to go out with her too. She was 21 at the time, by the way. I was 31, so there's a 10-year difference. And my brother also kind of liked her. So early on, when we're figuring this all out, I knew that I wasn't going to try anything because I'm not going to fight for anybody. And I figured my brother and this other guy are way better looking than I am and have much more to offer because I was so broken and had no confidence. So she dances with me, and I just think she danced with me. I still can't really accept the fact that she likes me. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. So a couple days later, I tell my friend, hey, why don't you suggest to her, like, a friend on Facebook? Like, suggest me as a friend, but do add my brother and add this other guy too. That way it's not too obvious. So he does that. And one day I'm at work, and I get a phone call, and I don't know who it is. And I answer it, and it's her. She straight got my number from Facebook and called me. And she asked me if I knew anything about cars, and I told her a little bit. I mean, like, I'm not very mechanically inclined, but she was telling me that she needed to take the car to mechanic, but it wasn't running right, and she needed help. So I left my job, which is in Playa del Rey, so far, far west LA, almost near the ocean. And I drove all the way to, I think her car was in Riverside or something. I had a mechanic. So I picked her and her daughter up, and I took her home. And she texted me and said thank you and that sort of thing. And I met up with a best friend later on that day, and we're like at a restaurant. And she messages me and says, oh, I should have asked you to help me get some groceries. I need groceries. And I was like, oh my God, I can come back and go get groceries right now. And this feeling came over me that I'm too, I won't say needy, but I was like too like, oh my God, I'll help you with this, I'll help you with that. Like too much of that like nice guy. You know what I mean? And usually those kind of people don't get girls. They don't get girls to have fun with for the night, and they sure as hell don't get relationships. So I did tell her, oh my God, do you want me to help you get groceries? This, and that. And I don't remember her answering. And I just felt like an idiot because I've had so many bad dating experiences since my second wife left. I've been treated pretty much badly by most women I've come into contact with generally. I don't like most women. I just don't like the cattiness, the competitiveness they have with other women. I don't like the, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm fine. All that stuff. I just don't like that. I don't want to deal with that. So I get a text message, and it's from this guy that I messaged about a camera earlier in the day at Craigslist. It was a really rad camera that I wanted for a long time, and the price was right, but I figured maybe somebody else got it before me because he wasn't responding. But he finally responded and said, hey, I still have it. If you want to come and get it, you can come get it now. Perfect, I'm going to come and get it. So now I have to drive from Upland all the way to LA. I think it was like Echo Park to go pick up this camera. So I'm driving all the way over there, and I'm just about there, and she texts me and just randomly says, hey, so what do you think about me? And I'm going to stop right there. When I was at that restaurant, when I said that I was being too nice and, oh my God, I'll help you with this, I'll help you with that, I made a decision at that moment when I realized how too nice I was that I was going to stop doing that. And I was going to start being an asshole to women. Not only an asshole, but, like, what are you up to today? I don't know, maybe I'm busy. Why? What are you up to? And just not be helpful, not be a nice guy. Just be a jerk, because it seems like those were the guys that got chicks. So I made a conscious decision that day that's the way I was going to start acting. So I get this text message from her, and she said, hey, so I was wondering, what you thought about me. And I just said, well, you're very nice. I think you're a pretty cool friend. And she just straight up says, well, I have very strong feelings toward you. And I wanted to know if you feel the same way, because I don't want to waste my time. And it doesn't hurt that I just got out of a bad relationship. And I immediately forward the message to my buddy, whose house we met at. And he said, great. So I messaged her and I told her, yeah, I do feel the same way about you. And that was it. It was great. There was no chase. There was no playing games, no nothing. She told me she liked me. I liked her. And we started our relationship. There was no fireworks, like butterflies in the stomach or anything like that. When we started dating and hanging out, it was just like I had found my wife or girlfriend or soulmate, whatever, from the last life. And it's like, oh, there you are. And then we just picked up. It was very, very weird. But we got along great. She was sweet, perfect. We didn't argue about anything. We're both non-confrontational. I mean, unless we really need to be. But there's just no point in getting upset or, dealing with negativity. So almost immediately, like within a few weeks, she gets pregnant. And I had never wanted kids in my life. I've always loved kids, and kids always loved me. I'd always be at a light and then look to my left or right, and I'd see a kid, and they'd always be smiling and waving to me and looking at me like if I was some angel or superhero that they're fascinated with. It was really weird. Kids just like me. And I like kids, but I never wanted any kids. And the reason why is because I've seen a lot of relationships where there are really good relationships. They worked perfectly. You're thinking these people are going to be together forever. And then the woman finally gets her baby, and then everything changes. The guy will be talking about his hobby that she used to be interested in before, and she won't be paying attention, or she'll roll her eyes and, yeah, just go work your overtime, and, I got what I want now. You can kind of just go away. I know that sounds extreme, but I've just seen it so much where couples stopped working together. They stopped caring. And I've talked to a lot of other friends where the relationship had started deteriorating. They've been in a bad relationship for a while. And I said, hey, well, when did it start? Right when the first baby came, right? And they always say yes. So it's scared shitless to have kids. Okay, but one day I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to work, so I had to drive really early so I didn't hit traffic. And she called me and said, didn't you get the text message I sent you? I said, no. She's like, well, why don't you look at it? So I look at it, and it's a picture of a pregnancy test that says it's positive. And so I just call her and say, hey, I'll be right there. I could hear her crying over the phone, and I get home, and she's crying, and she's upset. And I was like, no, this is good. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Having a kid changed me. It made me become a better person. It helped me learn to love in this way that you can only understand if you have kids. It just made me a better person in every which way. You learn forced patience when you have kids, because, I mean, you realize that you can't get a kid to do what you want them to do, and sometimes things just, like, you just have to kind of roll with the punches and take your time. And if you're a decent person, it's just going to make you a better person, period. And it did. It made me a much better person. And so that first kid was Julian, the one who passed away in the accident. So I immediately got us an apartment. We didn't have much, but I had a really good job, so slowly we'd started getting everything. But basically we just had a bed and a fridge, and I think we got a couch much later on. We didn't have much furniture, but it was great. We had nothing. It was so simple, and it was just so great. No clutter. And that's where we started our relationship, was in Upland. And it seemed like we just got closer and closer. We had a great understanding of each other. But when we first started dating, I noticed that she didn't really talk much. Like, I'd say, well, where do you want to eat? And she's like, well, whatever you want to eat is fine. It's like, no, I know where I want to eat. What do you want to eat? Like, I want to know what you want. And sometimes it'd get annoying. And she told me, well, I'm sorry, but I really wasn't allowed to have an opinion in my last relationship. I was told I was stupid and I didn't know anything, and it's like, oh my God, that's where this is coming from. And then looking back, like when we first started talking, I could see that. I could see how that she was a damaged person by what happened from her ex. So I explained to her that she's not stupid. She's great. I'm very much in love with her. Everything's perfect, and I want to know what her opinion is. It matters very much to me. And so she started talking and telling me about, her ideas, her thoughts, and all this stuff. And what was cool is she learned how to cook at a young age, and her grandmother was a cook. So I was in a relationship with somebody who knew how to cook, so I was always eating home-cooked meals. That was great. She learned meals that my mom made, and then started making them for me. That way, I'd be happy, and they'd get passed on. She learned desserts that were from my grandfather's country, and she cooks those for me. So basically, anything that I've ever liked from my family, she knows how to cook. She learned, and she taught me a lot of dishes that I know about, a lot of different foods. So I eat vegetables a little more than I used to, because I hated vegetables. So it's great. That part was awesome. So we had our first child, Julian, and then about 5 years later we had Lucas, who just turned 6 January 23rd. And she had I forgot to mention, she had Bella from her first relationship, and she was 2 when we got together. She's going to be 15 this year in August, and she's a great kid. I loved being in a relationship with somebody that had a kid. It was something I never really experienced before. So from age 2 and up, I got to see all that, and it was her first kid too. And it was great. I know a lot of people don't like dating single mothers, but it was perfect for me, and it was it was perfect for my friend whose house we met at. He liked the experience too. And he also explained to me some of his experiences with dating a single mom and having to get the car seat and all that and put it in the car when you don't really know what you're doing, and instant family. It was a great experience. It was perfect. And since she's my soulmate, you feel things differently. Let's say I was with a woman that was just kind of okay. Like, we fought all the time, and I cared about her, but we just had a bad relationship. Well, if we lost a kid together, well, number one, she's gonna leave. I'll tell you that right now. That's just how it works when people lose a kid. But you don't just feel your pain. You feel the pain of your wife, girlfriend, whatever you want to call it. Because they lost a kid too. When it's your soulmate, and they're perfect, like my wife, you can really feel their pain, and you don't want them to have any pain. You want to take it away from them as much as you can, like, and make their life easier. And that's how I feel all the time. I don't want her to experience any kind of discomfort in any way. When she cooks, I do all the dishes. I clean up after myself, and anything that I see that I can do to make her life easier, I do it. So on June 17th, we'll be together 12 years. On February 15th, we'll be married for 4 years. We got married the day after Valentine's Day, which is great because the candy's half off. The cool thing about her too is when we got together and we got our place, she started meeting some of my other friends and meeting other family members. My parents liked her right off the bat, and my dad pretty much passed away a couple of years after we got together. So he got to meet my son Julian, and then he passed in 2016. So at the time, I had this best friend, and when we got the apartment, I gave him a key to the house. So if he was ever in the area or whatever, he can just come in if he needed a place to crash, or just, he's my best friend. I gave him a key to the house. And my wife would call him randomly, like on the weekends, and say, "Hey, are you going to hang out with your buddy this weekend? He's been working really hard. He hasn't done anything. Why don't you come and hang out with him?" That's the kind of person she was. And my friend at the time was blown away that a girl would do that. We ended up having a falling out. We're not friends anymore. And what's interesting is he got a girlfriend, got married very quickly, and she basically stopped him from hanging out with his friends. It was the complete opposite. So, yeah, we don't talk anymore, which sucks. It's a really beautiful thing to be able to completely be yourself in a relationship. Like, you don't have to act like somebody else. You don't have to... You can just completely be yourself. You don't have to walk on eggshells. And they love you. They completely love you for who you are. They're not trying to change you, which, let's face it. Most men get with women not wanting them to change at all. But most women will get with a man thinking, this is the person I'm going to change him into. I want to change him into this person that I want him to be. It's sad, but it's a fact. And it's cool that I don't have to deal with all those things that, most guys have to deal with. What's wrong? I'm fine. That kind of stuff. Or, I've noticed that you've been off for a couple days. Will you tell me what's wrong? Well, if you don't know, obviously you're not paying attention. I don't have to deal with any of that shit. I don't like dealing with that kind of stuff. I'm not going to deal with that stuff. And I've got the perfect woman, so I don't have to deal with that. And it's just great. I don't want her to change in any way either. She's perfect. So when the accident happened in 2019, I was in a coma for 2 months. I was dying. Both my lungs had collapsed. I had 2 strokes. My heart was damaged. My whole left leg was broken. My ribs were broken. My nose, my jaw were broken. I was all fucked up. And they told her that I was hanging by a thread, that I could go at any moment. So she was basically calling a bunch of my friends and family, telling them that they should come and visit me, that they didn't know if I was going to make it. And it took me a while to really understand how scary that must have been for her. You know, I think about what it'd be like to lose her, and it scares the shit out of me. I can't imagine life without her. And she's perfect in every way. I mean, she's gorgeous, she's sweet, she's loving, she's great to my friends, my family. She's so loving, so helpful, so selfless. And she set the bar so high that if anything ever happened to her, God forbid, I would just want to be single. I wouldn't want to date. God, who wants to date? All the drama, you know, the dating apps where a lot of women are just on there to be validated. Oh, he likes me. Okay, well, that's all I need. I don't actually want to date. And just all that bullshit. I wouldn't want to deal with that. And let's say that, you know, I do meet somebody if she passed away. I know that I've already had the best, and it's never going to happen again. And I wouldn't want to have to settle or compromise in any way. I don't want to hide some of me or have to, you know what I mean? I want to be able to completely be myself. So I just think that if anything happened to her, God forbid, it'd just be better for me to be alone. And just love my son, raise my son if he's still young. Or if he's older, just give him a call every now and then and just kind of do my own thing and learn to be happy being single, being alone. But my wife says that that's not feasible, that if something happened to her, that I need to have somebody, that I need help. Like, I need a woman in my life. And she told me that if anything ever happened to her, that she would come back, like as a ghost or whatever, or try to figure out some way to push the right woman in my path. Now, is that love or what? And the cool thing too is, like, you know, she's never did that thing where I'm at a restaurant and, oh, I saw you looking at her. Like, she understands how guys work. It's almost like she's a guy in a way. Like, she understands that guys admire other women's beauty, and that doesn't mean that he's gonna cheat on you. Doesn't mean that he's gonna go talk to her or have an affair. It just means that he thinks that she's pretty, and she's the kind of girl that, yeah, well, she is pretty. I would understand why he would look at her. Like, she just gets it. She understands men better than most men. And she knows me better than I know myself in a lot of ways. I remember we were watching some show. Like, we really weren't watching, but it was on TV. We were living in the motel at the time where life sucked and I didn't know where my life was going. My son had just passed away. And I think it was like my big fat gypsy wedding or something. Yeah, that's what it was. And there was this girl, and, you know, she was getting fitted for a dress, and I said, wow, she's really pretty. And she's like, well, of course she is. That's your type. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you always like girls with dark hair. You don't like blondes. And usually they look like this, and they have to have some kind of imperfection, because you don't like perfection looks-wise, you know, like a model or something on TV. They have to have some kind of imperfection. Maybe the teeth aren't quite straight, or there's this, and she had it really narrowed down. I was like, God damn, maybe you're right. It's weird for, you know, my wife to know so much about me that she's able to point that out. And, I mean, just imagine a relationship with no jealousy. You never have to worry about jealousy. Jealousy is a pain in the ass. God, some of the other women that I was with, they've just started fights over the dumbest shit. You know, over looking at somebody, and sometimes you're not even looking at them. You know, you could be looking, you know how guys are, where you're just kind of like looking into space. You don't know what the hell you're looking at. Your mind is somewhere else. So let's talk about her being a mother. She is the greatest mother that I've ever come into contact with. She even has that mother spidey sense. I remember we're at Chuck E. Cheese, and my sister was busy, and she had 3 girls, and my wife just kind of moved her right arm and caught one of my nieces. And she's done that several times where like she catches kids from falling. It's just like she knows. It's weird. We're not the spanking type. We really talk to our kids and try to understand where they're coming from and tell them that it's okay to have these emotions. And we're both on the same wavelength, parent wise. It sure reminds me a lot of how my mom was when I was a kid. My mom was very loving, basically gave me whatever I wanted. We'd go to the grocery store and I'd put whatever I wanted in the cart. And even when she'd be sick, she'd just be in the same room with us and just watching us. But, I had a perfect mom, and my wife reminds me a lot of how my mom was a mom. So with my first marriage, I mentioned in another video that I got married very young. I got married at 19 to a high school sweetheart, but she wasn't in my high school. Well, it didn't work out, obviously. We got divorced. And as painful as that was, I would do it over and over and over again because I'm the one that made out in the deal. I got two of my very, very best friends. Her brother is like one of the greatest guys in the world, and so is her father. I talk to her brother maybe every other day, and her father I talk to maybe twice a month, once a month. They're just great people, and I'm just very happy to have them in my life. They came to the hospital and were concerned about me when I was in a coma, and they came with my wife to tell me that my son didn't make it, but I had already found out. And my wife loves him to death. I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't happen. My second wife was trying to tell me that I could not see them anymore. I wasn't allowed to see them, that she was going to leave me, and I told her, well, you can go ahead and leave. Because somebody who loves me is going to tell me that. And why on earth would I lose two great friends over a woman who really doesn't even care about me? So, yeah, I have the perfect wife in the world, and I have these two great friends. So another thing, my passion is photography. I love photography very much. I did it for a living. I just love photography very, very much. And one of my forte, the thing that I really like to do is do nudes. Obviously, that's not okay with a lot of women and a lot of girlfriends whose boyfriends are photographers. But right when I got with my wife, when we first got together as a couple, I let her know, hey, look, I'm a photographer. I photograph women who are nude. I'm not going to have an affair. I'm not going to touch them. I just do nudes, okay? And she completely got it. I guess in her head she understands the whole artsy thing. So I can still do what I want and, photograph models, hang out with friends. I have friends who are girls that I've had for years who I've never done anything with. So, there's times where I have drove and hung out with them alone, had dinner or lunch or whatever, and my wife completely gets it. God, it's amazing having the perfect wife. It really is. By the way, the picture that's the thumbnail on this video was taken pretty much when my wife and I started dating. My friend Daniel took the photo with my camera. The camera was having some issues focusing. It was, by the way, it was that camera that I was on my way to get when she confessed that she liked me. It was having this issue focusing, so he was taking a picture and he drops the camera. And then naturally the focusing thing starts to work, which is pretty funny. But I'll always love those photos that he took because it shows a couple that are newly together and they're just happy, and I think we knew that we're going to be together forever, right away. I mean, we got along, we understood each other. She's just perfect, I'm so blessed. My mom calls her every day. They're close. My mom doesn't call me, But she calls my wife, and I'm very, very blessed. I don't understand sometimes why. Like, why did I luck out and get, a perfect? Why did I get my soulmate? I know there's a lot of people out there that are very, very good people, better than me. I don't think I'm that great of a person, and they've always had bad relationships. They don't have their soulmate, or maybe they're in a relationship, but they can't be themselves. They're walking on eggshells. It's very one-sided. Like some happy wife, happy life bullshit. I hate that term so much. It's supposed to be about you guys together, not just worrying about making sure that somebody's happy. Naturally, I do that, but it's because my wife does the same for me. It's a partnership, and we communicate very, very well. So, I think that's about all I can say about my wife that I can remember right now. It's hard for me to concentrate. A couple days ago, a friend of mine passed away from alcoholism. My second friend my second friend in a year to die from alcoholism. He was the friend whose house I was at before I got in the accident. He was an extremely sensitive man. He was somebody that you really couldn't joke around with too much. He was very sensitive. He worked at Staters for 32 years. I think he had 2 more years to retire, but he just could not take being talked to a certain way anymore. So he quit his job and just started drinking morning and night, and he killed his liver. And what sucks is, for the last couple weeks, whenever I was down the hill, I would say, hey, I'm in the area. I hope you're doing well, and, can I see you? And he'd always say, oh, I can't today. My caretaker's on his way. There's always an excuse. He was busy, but it sucks I didn't get to say goodbye to him or see him one last time. Although the last time we did, I did see him, I let him know that I cared about him and it was nice seeing him and all that. But it's another friend who I'm not going to see anymore, here at least. So the lesson is, tell everybody you love them and you think about them all the time, because we never know what's going to happen. Yeah, very important. Tell everybody you love them. Send a text message to somebody, letting them know you're thinking about them. That stuff is gold, and it just makes people feel good, and it's the way we should be. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.